and your what was 174,000 votes you got?
Well, they kept counting for a couple of weeks. I think I'm up over like 176,000 now.
Wow.
I got tired after like 2 weeks of checking and seeing that they're still counting. I kept watching and keeping track of the exact number, and then I'm just like, whatever.
And we are live. This is the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast brought to you by the only real libertarian in myself, Marcus Matthews. And today I'm joined by my two co-hosts. One of them, not really excited about having him on again because of the diabolical nature of his being. And that's not Eric Parker. Eric, how you doing this fine evening?
I'm doing great. And if I had to guess, Tubbs going to say the feeling is mutual. But yeah, I'm doing great. I'm up here in North Carolina along with our guest tonight, Mike Ross. So, he's right down the road from me. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I always enjoy coming on here and talking about liberty. So let's get going.
And then with my second co-host, I want to introduce everybody to our, this was something I did out of the kindness of my heart for the special needs community.
You needed the ratings.
Let's be fair. I want to tell you.
We're going to let the ratings speak. You've had to point out yourself that once I came on, your ratings started going up. You're welcome. So I want to make that very clear. You are like the drugstore version of Eazy-E. And so you needed something to kind of bring this all together. And here I am. And listen, I want to change the tone there, young man. Oh, wait a minute. You're older than me, aren't you?
No, I'm 47.
That's a lie also. So this is how you're setting this up, with a lie.
Yeah, well, I was going to tell everybody, DEI isn't very popular these days amongst the political circles. And I want to apologize to everybody in advance because Tubb was most certainly a DEI hire.
Hold on.
And so if you're going to hold any
animal, the white guy, you would be the DEI hire. Let's be very clear.
I don't think so because I gave birth to this enterprise. And
you're a libertarian without a beard. You're a minority, man.
We should probably let Mike talk.
Yeah, Tubb is the minority, a libertarian without a beard.
Libertarian without a beard. You're a minority, man.
And with that being said, I want to introduce our guest tonight. It is Mr. Mike Ross out of the great state of North Carolina.
What's up, guys? Yeah, Mark.
Successfully ran a gubernatorial campaign and garnered almost 290,000 votes. That's where we're going right now.
Almost. Almost.
Yeah.
We're going there. I think it was closer to 176, but what I looked at it's the most any third party governor candidate ever got in the state of North Carolina. So I'll take it.
You always got to round up.
Always
round up.
Hey, I'll round up an extra 100,000. It's just if I ever gain some steam, the media, who's so truthful will just call me a liar and play that clip on repeat over and over like I'm the one lying, not them. So
you know what, and I enjoy that very much. If it wasn't for the media, I don't think the electoral sensationalism would be so profound. And Happy New Year, D. We appreciate you tuning in. But that's one of the things that that we're going to talk about tonight is how this media and the way Americans are fed their information, why they voted for Trump. What do you guys, I think it was a populist move because as far as Democrats go, they went way too far left. Especially with the sports thing because, I don't have any problem with the LGBTQ, whatever community, do you, because in my bedroom, I control what happens in my bedroom and I don't want to control what happens in your bedroom. So but when you're talking about putting men and women's sports, that affects a lot of people the wrong way. And, I just think they went way too far left on that. And that gave a on-ramp for Trump to get out in front of Harris with all of that stuff. But that's just my personal opinion from the Black Powder Podcast. Mike Ross, that's my first question to you. Why do you think Trump won?
Oh, boy, I think that at the end of the day, I think Trump won because I think the media overplayed their hand. Is really kind of how I look at it. Is I think that there's only so much they can spoon feed down the American people's throat for so long and treat us like idiots for so long before enough people are, just in casual conversations. I saw people who are not political, like where they're joking about, the bullshit that they're hearing on the news, right? Like, can you believe, let's look at it. They're telling us that, that Joe Biden, they're just now saying that Joe Biden has signs of dementia and Alzheimer's, right? Like right now, I recently became a caretaker for my 90-year-old father who has a moderate Alzheimer's diagnosis, right? And I look at that and I love my dad, sharp as a tack on old issues. But, the idea that Joe Biden has been the commander in chief and executive decision maker for the United States, I think the reality of the situation is regular people, like the media, has been lying to us for 4 years. Like, now you're going to hop in here and, all the way up until the debate performance, they were still trying to tell us every day, oh no, he's in great health, all of this. And just, I think people started to see through that. And, I think there were a lot of people, and I try to kind of talk them down, my Republican friends that, really think that Trump's going to do something. I just want to temper their expectations. Like, yeah, I get what you're explaining, why you like that, but none of that's going to happen. Like, we're not actually going to get these things that you think are there. But I think you can only insult people's intelligence for so long before they kind of just go against that. I think it was more a repudiation of the media than anything else. And I think that the Democrats are probably kind of tucking their tails and having to reevaluate some things, because this stranglehold of being able to lie and gaslight to the American people with impunity. I think it's a good thing that that's crumbling. Even though I wish it was libertarians who were more benefiting from it, I do think it's good for the American people that that's crumbling.
But before I expand to my co-host here, I want to make one point, because I wrote something down. Reagan, because if you're old as Tub, you'll remember that Ronald Reagan was in the severe throes of dementia in his last few years as president. And, I don't know too much ahead of him, because I wasn't conscious enough to pay attention to presidents prior to Reagan. But, this is not a precedent for the establishment to have a octogenarian, if that's the correct word, that doesn't have any of his sensibility. And that's one of the reasons we get the term empty suit, because we have these bureaucrats making policy, and they're just saying, here, sign here. They did that with Reagan, they did that with Biden, and they're about to do that with Trump, because he doesn't have, I don't give a crap what anybody says, he does not have all his faculties about him. Because when he talked about that New Orleans dude, he was saying, talking to him as if he was a immigrant, a legal immigrant that came into this country. And that's just bold-faced BS nonsense. So, with that being said, who has the next question for our guy, Mike Ross?
We're not discussing the question that you asked him. Should we just keep hitting him? We keep hitting with a barrage of questions.
Man, it's the gauntlet. Is that the route we're going? Just gauntlet of questions.
Libertarianism. It's the Lord of the Flies. It's every man for himself. Isn't that what we believe in?
I'm good with whatever. I'm having a good time.
Well, I will expound on the initial topic. I agree with Mike. I also think like Trump won because he's a big personality. You know what I mean? And Kamala Harris lost because she might be the only person less likable than Hillary Clinton. You know what I mean? Like, the Democrats ruined this for themselves because they skipped over the primary process.
100%.
And they crapped on their, registered voters. But I'm not saying like I would have wanted the Democrat to win whoever it was, but it could have been anyone. I think people were tossing out like Ben Shapiro, and I don't know that. Not Ben Shapiro.
It probably could have been Bobby Kennedy. Like, looking at the numbers.
So they kicked RFK Jr. out of the primary process early, and that's why he ran independent. And then obviously he bent the knee, kissed the ring. But I digress. Like, still, and I think RFK, had he been the Democrat nominee, probably could have won. Because all the blue, no matter who people would have gotten over all the things they tried saying negative of them and would have said, we got to support our team, because they do it regardless of who it is. Yep. Now, I wonder how many independents and third parties or non blue, no matter who, red till I'm dead voters would have went that way or went towards Trump because he endorsed Trump. I think RFK Jr. might have been the winning factor for Trump. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It was.
I don't know if you agree or disagree, but
no, I certainly, because I'm a data guy, right? I was a financial planner by trade. I lived in spreadsheets before I transitioned to here. But I think it's pretty clear when you look at the data that the Make America Healthy, RFK coalition, independents that just, those independents that sometimes go red or blue, but chose to pick a side, whether because they were insulted by the media or what. And even at least looking at the data in North Carolina, I would have to say libertarians. I think that group, if any of those components swung the other way, it could have went that way. But I do think the data shows that those largely broke towards Trump. And if the Democrats had an honest position instead of installing a puppet of their donors, and it would have potentially ended up with a Bernie Sanders or a Robert F. Kennedy, I think, off the bat, the Kennedy Make America Healthy Alliance numbers, those immediately come out of Trump and go right in along with the blue no matter who. I think, libertarians would probably either have shown up more for Chase or potentially for Bobby Kennedy in that case, where it becomes, that same thing. And I think the independents could break either way. So, I think if the Democrats would have just not tried to ram that process through, that would have been their best chance to defeat Trump, would be to just be honest and be democratic.
Real quick before I hand it off to Tub, to speak on the numbers real quick. RFK got roughly 757,000 votes being running as an independent. If his numbers were extrapolated from the number of people who voted for Trump, and if he was a Democratic candidate, most certainly he would have won.
Yeah. I think he would have won. And that's, I think he probably would have won the primary too. I think he would have won the primary, and that's why they did everything possible. Just looking in North Carolina, my state, our state Democrat Party is basically just a puppet of the national party, and they did exactly what they were told. Nobody on the primary ballot. Where you look at the libertarian ballot, since we had a primary, I think we had like 11 or 12. Basically, anybody who had declared any interest in running for president as a libertarian, our state party put them on the ballot, because that's what we're libertarians. We believe in choices.
So let's start with this. Trump got elected because of the kingmaker in the Libertarian Party. I want to make that very clear. All right. The only reason he so here's what happens. I think that when it came down to it, when it became Kamala versus Trump, and kind of that we knew, I think that people were more like, it's the devil situation. Like, okay, because Trump has things and they say, oh yeah, things were better. They could sell that a little bit. I think that if it wasn't Trump, I can't be sure that the Republicans would have won. In all honesty, I think that if they'd had another Republican in there, just kind of more open, it probably would have been even closer. But here's what happened. I truly believe that the Democrats had already kind of said, we're losing this one. Like once they push Biden out, they go, okay, we're going to lose this one. We're going to accept the L. So here's what we're going to do. I think Kamala became a waster candidate. So their point was they could say, hey, we ran her. She lost. We're done with her. Like they don't have to support her anymore, and they didn't have to put up Shapiro or one of their other ones and run the risk of that good person losing still. So I think they said, hey, we're going to hold off. Listen, because let's understand, Democrats do very well in playing long-term politics. Okay, like they crush it, dude. And so what happens? I think they go, hey, we're going to save our guy, let her go. And she's going to lose, because no matter who was up there was going to lose. Yeah. We'll take the loss with her. We don't have to deal with her anymore, and we move forward. But the issue that comes into me was, well, first let me ask this: who would have been the other Republican that could have won? And so I don't know
the establishment Republican would have been Nikki Haley. The even though I don't consider him grassroots, he's still establishment. But the other grassroots would have tried to be Ron DeSantis. You know what I mean? Like that would have been it would have been came down if Trump wasn't in this race or something that happened to him or something. It would have been Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley in the primary, and if the donors had got their way, it would have been Nikki Haley because she's the military-industrial complex goon. You know what I mean?
I would generally agree with that. Only thing I would maybe think might be the X factor would be Vivek. If Trump was not there, I think Vivek would have actually appealed to Trump's base. Maybe just because during the primary, Vivek was the only one who was coddling up to Trump, obviously wanting to be a part of, the future administration. But I think with the approaches that were there, I think he could have done better with Trump not on that primary ballot. I don't know if it would have been enough to overcome the establishment's pick in Haley or the establishment's other backup pick in Ron DeSantis, but I think he would have done better if Trump wasn't there.
Do we think that Vance is a shoe-in for the next time? That he's got the nomination?
No. Hell no.
Just the nomination, not the win.
I think he can run and he'll get a higher ranking now than I think Ron DeSantis will get next time. As crazy as it is, like I think Ron DeSantis will not be a active governor next time it comes around. Most people in Florida will probably have moved on. And I think Vance, if he plays his cards right, could end up being the most popular vice president in my lifetime. Like, I really think Vance has that.
That's a hard one.
But I don't think that it's gonna. I don't know, man. He is kind of goofy. I don't know. It's weird.
I think that's the heavy load to pull for vice president because nobody really gives a crap about vice presidents for the most part. One thing I wanted to touch on is the Vivek thing. Yeah. And I think a lot of Americans liked his rhetoric, but when the rubber meets the road, dude is a vegan. That's not going to play well in many American circles. He goes around saying God is real, but he's a Hindu. And he has literally said that he doesn't believe that animals should be raised for consumption or be killed for consumption. And I think when you really dissect him, I don't think he would be the person that I don't think he's, this is the very unpopular. I don't think he's a real American because he has not had an American experience. His parents were immigrants. Their cultural leanings were from their old country. He came in here. He went to a private high school. He went to an elite college. His parents set him up with $1 million to invest. How many Americans can say that's their American experience?
Hold on. You just mentioned the fast track to the presidency is what you just said. What you just said right there is exactly what they intentionally raise their kids to do, and they do their things just for that purpose right there.
Yeah, I think a lot of those things. I don't know. Maybe it's because you can obviously see the black and yellow flag behind me, and discern a little bit more there. But I don't think any of that really matters because I think by and large, people seem to judge politics based on team sports and buying the bullshit that they're being spoon fed. And the reality is, he's looking at some of his positions, like when he came to address LP National in DC, there's some things he says that as a libertarian, I agree with him. He's certainly, at least on some positions, and then he's got other positions that I'm like, that's not libertarian at all, dude. That's like majorly statist. But he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to engage people and seem very rational. So I think that people would, attach to that. And unless they come out with some crazy thing like, a transgender porn scandal, like they did in the race that I was in, right? If that's not going on, I think the American people largely buy it, right? Like that's the blue no matter who, and the MAGA, the true diehard MAGA cult that's like, thinks of Trump as a savior. They're not going based on evidence, right? As a libertarian, they clearly don't actually care about any reality or logical argument. They're just going based on the bullshit they're being fed.
And one more thing, because I wanted to talk about Vivek's fellow person of Indian descent, Kamala, right now here in California, they're polling her for governor of California because our governor is out. So if she does decide to run, there is a high likelihood she would win. And that is grooming her for another one, because there have been several presidential candidates that have failed in the first time they've ran. Not several. I can think of a few. Nixon, Reagan was in a primary. Bush was in a primary. There's a lot of guys that were primary guys that ended up either becoming VP or president after, not in their first try. So there's a possibility that the Democrats may just be regrouping around her and doing something else in 2028.
Part of me hopes they are that dumb. But like just as a libertarian who wants to see nothing more than Democrats and Republicans fade into the oblivion of history books as they're soundly rejected, I think continuing to hold up Kamala Harris as the poster child of your party can only lead to bad things for the Democrat Party. So I just wonder, how can we get the Republicans to like rally behind Nick Fuentes and, so just find the worst people to get them to put up there so that regular people can just, come behind a sane, rational libertarian or third party candidate.
I don't want to interrupt Tub, but I'm going to anyways. Here's tonight. It's a trend tonight. We're going to keep it going. I have an idea for how, Angela McArdle can prove to all of us that RFK Jr. is that libertarian in the cabinet, right? It is if he runs as the libertarian candidate in California for governor against Kamala Harris. That's it. That's the only, since he is a registered libertarian in the state of California, that's the only way I will ever admit that he was the libertarian in the cabinet. And that could be a huge upset. I don't know. What thoughts?
Well, he can't run right away. He can't run against Kamala because he'll still have his position with the Trump administration.
You can run.
Hey, that could end in 2 weeks, though. You saw the first administration. All that takes is like one bad comment, and he's
exactly. Yeah. He's got to say McDonald's sucks. It's bad for you, and Trump's gonna be like, I gave you free McDonald's on the plane. You're out. Far. You're fired.
You go after McDonald's. You went too far.
You can't ban the aspartame in my Diet Coke.
Exactly.
Okay.
Anyway.
So now I am going to ask Mike a question. Okay, so we'll bring it back and then we'll go around. In fact, I'm going to ask him a question. Mark, you can just listen to us talk if you need to. Okay, once you hear the question, you'll know why. You ready?
Okay.
So, Mike, when you ran, did being a libertarian help or hinder your run?
I think it helped.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it helped. I mean, I guess it's all relative, right? Like, did it help versus if I would have ran as a Republican or a Democrat? I mean, because there's been plenty of people who said, Mike, you could easily fit in with the Republican Party or the Democrat Party and do that there. But I'm a libertarian. So I think that having the support of my state party, having other great libertarian candidates to run against that and being able to tell the truth to voters, like as a candidate, that's something that I think a libertarian should not only have the luxury of, but should have the mandate of. We have enough liars in politics. We have enough people spilling bullshit from the Republican and Democrat party. So to get out there and just be able to tell the truth, I don't think I could do that as a Republican or a Democrat and continue to be a Republican or Democrat candidate, because I would talk about something that, is a sacred cow for their party and how their party was shit on it. And they would never let me run for anything again. So I think that being a libertarian, especially because I am a libertarian, even though I guess I'm not the only real libertarian, I think it helped me.
Marcus, that's him. But that's what I would tell you is I've said the kind of the same thing, and we've had conversations here in town. Is they said, "Hey, Tubb, as a Republican, you probably would have fared better." And I said, "Listen, I get it. Like I do, I get it. But I am a libertarian because there are certain beliefs that they're not going to like. And even if I got in, okay, what was going to happen is you start spewing a little too much libertarian stuff, even as a Republican, they might start turning against you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to keep you in office, but once they're going to primary you when the time comes, they're not going to give you a free pass back in again. And I said, that's kind of the road that we walk. And because like Eric's run also. And so we can see both sides of it. The good side is like what you said. Hey, I can go out there and be like, here we are. You know what I'm saying? This is who we are. This is what we like. This is what we don't like. There's no there's really no party line that we have to cater to and kind of toe the line. I mean, libertarians have some things that you have to kind of stay in line with them a little bit, but as a whole, they're kind of like, hey, go run, dude, see what happens. And so, but that was also a hindrance in some ways, because if you were like us, like when Eric and I ran here in town, we had to spend so much time explaining the party because people just didn't know who we were and what we believed and stuff along those lines. And so in that aspect, it was definitely a hindrance because we couldn't just go out and campaign. Did you come across that at all?
Yeah. So, I mean, so now that the campaign's over and I don't have any filters and can have my NCAP flag up and just, you know, tell the truth. I mean, the reality is you look at my campaign website, which I think is still up. Even though I'm a libertarian, I didn't reach out to voters and people in North Carolina and talk about me being a libertarian. I talked about the shit that mattered to them, their lives, inflation, the things that they're dealing with, and why the Republicans and the Democrats are not going to fix these problems and only make it worse. And then I just give them the libertarian policy prescription to fix it and make a logical, rational argument. If you're looking to, to help improve the quality of air and water, right? Rather than trying to force people to buy carbon credits, how about we stop giving protection to these big companies and let these municipalities who are being harmed sue them out of business if that's what it takes, but get rid of immunity. If you just give what I, as a libertarian, I'm obviously biased. I think our solutions are common sense. Sadly, millions of people think we're absolutely batshit crazy for believing these common sense things. But I looked at it. I think the word libertarian was probably only used in any of my campaign materials. Like you can count it on one hand. I think maybe once or twice on the website. So even though I was the libertarian candidate and I would mention it during interviews, I didn't really want to label it down to the party because I did enough to kind of promote that in the conversation. But as a candidate, I viewed it as a job interview, right? And we had two garbage politicians, and one of them is now our governor. And they were both lying to the people. So I just looked at it as I'm going to go out there and tell the truth. I'm going to try and draw attention to the Libertarian Party and tell people, if you like what I'm saying, get involved in LPNC, take over at the local level. Because, I'm a big believer that libertarians are going to get our wins at the most local level. Yeah. So my job at the top of the ticket running for governor was ensure our ballot access, be a damn good messenger, and try to elevate libertarians across the state. I mean, that was my goal. Because I never thought I'd run for a statewide race.
Right.
So
now I'm going to ask you kind of prematurely. I should probably hold off, but will you run again?
Maybe.
That's a strong maybe, huh? And now, so
maybe.
Will you then step away from the statewide office and run more local instead if you do?
So, yeah, I mean, that my actual plan before my life kind of took a bit of an unexpected turn recently. I was planning on running for something at like the most local level, right? Like my town commission where, there's maybe 1,500 people who vote in the election, right? Where I just know, hey, these are the issues that in our local community are bad. These are the things that our local government is spending your money on that's favorable corporate welfare bullshit, right? Like point out those things, run on those. That was kind of my plan, was to run for something there, because I truly, my big picture vision for how we fix politics in America. I'm like a hardcore believer in some of the ideas behind Project Decentralized Revolution. What I want to see is municipalities across the United States take over their local governments and get serious legal challenges pushing the limits of the 10th Amendment, nullifying as much federal law as you can. Because you look throughout history, even in SCOTUS cases, they don't like to legislate the 10th Amendment. And they avoid those cases like the plague. And if we're able to create little pockets where you have 100 different municipalities across the country nullifying pieces of federal legislation that is not good for their communities, I think that's how we push more towards clawing power back from a federal government and pushing it down towards the people. So, I mean, that's something I would love to do in my community, is win that over, say, hey, let's get back to the basics here. And when the federal government is trying to win us over and woo us with federal dollars, have the balls to say no. No, we don't want your money that you've already stolen from us. We don't want you in here. Like, if you can get the communities to do that, that's kind of my vision. But it takes a board majority. There's not a board majority up for the election this year. But if I can get on and get, another community member on there. That means will come 2027, I guess.
Well, let me ask you this, because oftentimes I like to play devil's advocate for great libertarian ideas. But what happens if you live in a community that views Trump as the second coming or Kamala Harris as the second coming, and you get stuck behind a bunch of politicians that refuse to reason because they think my particular beliefs and my position are absolute? Like, I believe in absolute liberty, and they probably don't believe in that. What do you think would happen if you end up in a town where it's like that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you to start, you really have to kind of look at the differences between how people think politically at the national and state level versus your municipal level. One, you have such low turnout because it's really only the really politically engaged, at least in my community. I don't know how it is by you guys in other states, but typically those muni elections are in off years, right? So it's not there with your big congressional seats. It's not there with the president. So you typically have your more engaged people. That includes a wide variety of people, from, the obvious community Karens who are there going to complain about everything under the sun and tell you why kids riding skateboards should be illegal. And, you have this kind of whole gamut there. But to me, that just says that that's the low hanging fruit. If turnout is already really low and you can go around and say, look, I don't care who you like for president. Like, it doesn't matter. But I know you probably don't like the money that could be fixing the potholes in your roads being given to a private business. Like, do you agree? Well, great. I want to get on the board so we can stop that. Like that. Those are the kind of conversations that I think you don't have to agree with me on really any of these big political issues. You just need to agree with me on how our town should operate with your money. I think if you do that, and my community is small enough that I can knock on every door in Cramerton. I can knock on and have a conversation, and thankfully I'm retired now, so I have the time to do it and have lengthy conversations over the whole year. But I think if you do that, I think that's how you build unity. Because when I look at who voted for me, when I analyze the data and I talk to people there, I can say with certainty that there are people who voted for Chase Oliver and me, there are people who voted for Donald Trump and me, and there are people who voted for Kamala Harris and me, and at least one person who voted for Jill Stein and me. So that tells me that if you bring a message that resonates with people and you talk to them in a way that shows that you respect their intelligence, something they're not used to, thankfully, due to the propaganda like that people have been fed for so long, I think that those are winnable. It takes people who have the time, the energy, the desire. And the reality is, I think that positions of power generally are more attractive to bad people. It's not that there's not good people who want to be involved. I think that due to the nature of power, the reason there's so many parasites in Congress is because for a parasite, that's a great place to be. And for a good person who doesn't think about wielding that power in a parasitic way, they're like, yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to go help in my church. I want to go build this business to employ some people in my communities. I just think the nature of it. And that's why I think more good people who are truly outside of the system need to, quite frankly, rise up and do something about it. And I don't think that these federal or statewide elections are the places that we're going to have success. But I think if we can get good people to tell the big, the higher level governments to piss off, I think we might be able to get some change.
I want to interrupt Tub real quick because this is going to
again. After you're done interrupting Tub, I would like to interrupt Tub.
Okay, because my father told me when I was a small kid, and I would give him an excuse. He told me, "Don't ever talk to me like I'm stupid, or don't ever talk to anybody else like they're stupid." And I took that as a lesson. And for Tub, it
can't help but talk to him like he's stupid.
I struggle with that because I have to lower my intelligence level to come down to his level. And so I don't want to be a hypocrite or anything of that nature.
Way past that, dude. Way past that.
There's a carve out for friends. Right. It's like how Congress was opted out of Obamacare. You're opted out of that rule by being friends.
So now that Marcus is done interrupting Tub.
Yeah, interrupt Tub.
Just to insult him. I'm gonna interrupt Marcus interrupting Tub to insult Marcus. Marcus, this is totally off track, but I got it in my notes. You attacked Hindus for not eating meat, but you don't eat pork, so I can't take you serious. That's like the tastiest meat. So
number one, it's not. Number two, I'm of West African lineage, and
they're from India.
Have you ever tasted bacon?
Literally.
Yeah.
I
tasted bacon
in my 20s.
And you don't think it's the tastiest?
No.
Were your taste buds scarred with like hot oil as a child? Or
no,
like
it was scarred because I went to a HBCU in Huntsville, Alabama. For breakfast, we had bacon, sausage, and eggs. For lunch, we had ham sandwiches. For dinner in the cafeteria, we had fried pork chops or ham or something like that. I'm
moving there now.
I could not eat any more pig if I tried to, because I was like, that's just way too much. And then genetically, my family has cholesterol issues, so I was like, no more for me. And it's been 30 plus years since. I'm not all Muslim about it because we live in Southern California, and you go to a Mexican restaurant, the beans have lard in them, and the tamales have lard in them. So I'm not all halal about the stuff. I'm just not consuming straight up pig meat. So
you're missing out.
Allah forbids me.
Hey, you have more willpower than me, man, because I know the bacon's bad for me. I just think it tastes too good that I don't care,
Have you tried beef bacon?
Huh?
It's not as good.
Beef bacon?
If you put it on the smoker, it's excellent.
So I may try it, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
But Eric,
Marcus,
let me get my licks in.
I'm not done interrupting Tub.
Eric has a pellet smoker, so he's a communist griller. So he's not even a real barbecue guy, and he's in North Carolina now, where they have real barbecue. Florida doesn't have real barbecue.
Yeah. What meat is real barbecue made of? What meat is real barbecue?
California. You are in California.
Marcus,
you don't talk about anybody's barbecue.
Marcus, North Carolina barbecue has to be pork. So while I'm here,
it's not barbecue.
In North Carolina.
I'm first generation California, by the way. My parents are from Alabama, so we know.
I have a black friend.
That is true. It was like I have family from Alabama. That's the same thing as I have a black friend. That's one.
So does your family put Alabama white sauce on their barbecue?
Dude, that's funny you said that. Because I made a fresh batch of Alabama white sauce today before this podcast.
And put it on beef.
No, because I'm going to spatchcock a turkey on Saturday and season it with coarse salt, coarse ground black pepper, and garlic, and baste it with Alabama white sauce as it smokes over cherry and pecan wood this weekend. So, yes, Alabama white sauce is part of the menu here. And to Tub's chagrin, because he believes oxygen is spicy and Sprite is hot. That's just hot, bubbly water. I am making real man's barbecue with real wood. Despite Eric, Mike Ross, do you smoke meat?
I mean, I'm still in a state of disbelief right now, Marcus, that you're claiming Alabama white is a mayo-based barbecue sauce. I think if you said that in North Carolina, you would be deported from North Carolina. If you claimed that was barbecue, you would be deported. And I think every North Carolinian, even the libertarians who are against that sort of thing, would support it.
I've made mustard-based barbecue sauces it's
got to be the vinegar-based, man. That's
mustard, and I've actually made that, but my barbecue sauce is ketchup based with Hatch chilies from New Mexico.
That's Western North Carolina, right, Mike?
I think I don't know. The only real barbecue is the hot vinegar. I mean, that's the only real. That's the authentic North Carolina barbecue.
I like vinegar and mustard. I know that's South Carolina or Eastern Carolina, but Eastern's like the vinegar, the hot vinegar, I think. So
I think so.
That's good. I put it all on there. I've even done Alabama white sauce with my chicken fingers. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not putting it on barbecue, but I'll put it on a chicken sandwich.
Well, Tub, what kind of meat sauce do you like?
Listen, so this was funny because like I am not biased. I'll take all of these. That's not
You
like
take all the meat sauce?
guy who sits here and goes, dude, I'm down for all.
You're for whatever meat that somebody throws in your face with some sauce, and you'll just slop that down anytime.
I don't know if you get what's going on here, Tub, but these are homo
Like to show
references.
the crap.
Are you propositioning him, Marcus?
It
I
does
mean,
Come on.
dirty.
he's not a bad looking dude, and I am in California, so you know.
Hey,
Oh boy,
Now I feel
that's gonna be all right. I gotta go. No, just kidding.
So I said
Oh.
earlier, I'm gonna start.
You guys want to make revenue? We could turn this into some OnlyFans stuff, man. Come on, be open to all the possibilities.
You are from California.
For real.
All right, Tub, we're done interrupting you. You got the next 20 minutes. Go.
Yeah, go
No,
ahead.
no. So I thought we were having a libertarian conversation, but it's cool. I mean, so now, so here's the thing. So when we were running locally, because you're saying local is the place to go, because it is. So as we were running locally, like Eric, we had 3 of us running at the same time here for city council in town.
Libertarians, different races.
Yeah. And so we would run, and Eric and I were pretty focused on the other one. We kind of get dragged in sometimes to the conversation. Like, dude, don't even get. They're like, hey, what do you feel about abortion? And we'd be like, city council. We have no say in that, and we'd let it ride. Now down here, our school board and city council are separate also, and so they would ask you about school board questions. Go, hey, that's not us. And so sometimes the best thing you do is say, hey, I'm not, why would I travel down that road when I don't have to? Because those issues are what you're talking about, the national issues aren't at the local level. But here's the problem, and I'm just going to be honest. Libertarians forget that. And they will say all kinds of stuff that they don't need to say because they're all so smart. You know, like they know everything. And they're going to talk about things that we had to keep telling the guy who was running with us, smart. That dude was legit smart. Like,
yeah, he was good.
And we had to keep telling him, dude, don't. And so many times I think that's what happens is libertarians, they fall for the trap and they get dragged into things they ought not be saying. And I think that kills us sometimes, as opposed to just stay local.
yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, that was something that even running statewide, you know, there were things where when we were coming up with the platform, right, there's a ton of libertarian issues. We got libertarian solutions for days. I could go hit Larry Sharp's site and we have like policy for any imaginable thing that you want, right? But I made very intentional decisions to avoid topics like abortion, right? Like, because one, it's a function primarily of the legislature, right? The governor, we have a weak model in North Carolina. So I tried to really use all of those because I really think, you know, when you're out addressing a crowd or giving a speech, you need you need a candidate who can speak well or articulate things in a way that resonates and cracks with them. But when you're going around for a city council and knocking on doors and talking to people, you're not giving a campaign speech. You're having a one-on-one conversation with one of your neighbors. And the best thing you could do is let them talk, which I know for a candidate and a libertarian is like the hardest thing in the world. But the reality is for those local races, there might be like 5 or 6 things in your local community that you have an amazing libertarian solution for how we're going to fix this and how we're going to make life better for everybody. But when you go around knocking on doors, 90% of the doors, even counting the ones that won't answer the door and talk to you, but 90% of the people you talk to are not going to give a shit about any of that. But if you have a conversation with them and ask them, hey, you know, I'm a fellow resident here. What are the things that are your concern? And you find out what they're interested in, let them talk. They may back into one of your solutions. You could then give them 75% of the time, you 25% of the time. You got to drop your libertarian solution. And I promise you that person's going to be a hell of a lot more likely to vote for you. But if you show up there and you're talking about abortion for a town council race, I mean, I don't care if you're on the same position as me on the issue. I'm going to tell you, dude, get out of here. Like, I'm worried about who's going to fill these potholes and whether we're going to have to repair this damn piece of the park again because it floods every time it rains. Like, those are the things that I care about at the local level. And I think libertarians need to avoid those traps. Like, really be laser focused on the goal.
I never was while running. Never was did I mention end the Fed. It never got said. What local, and to be honest with you, most people don't care. Most people are not thinking about the Fed. Like they're just not, and they're certainly not thinking about on who's going to repair my potholes or what. Like I had a couple things that, like, part of the reason, like Eric will tell you about his. Eric will tell about how he got involved and how that speaks to people. And so for me, our church had got shut down because we didn't have a certificate of use, a piece of paper. And we got shut down, and that's what actually prompted me to run, because I started kind of like, hey, this is a mess. And the more I got involved going through the process, I realized how messed up things were. And so I had a couple of things. I'd be like, hey, isn't it odd that like we can't just have simple things in our lives, but government's going to tell us? So I would mention about, hey, why do we need a permit for a shed? Why do we need a permit for a fence? Then I had one thing I would go around, and people really liked the idea, but I actually had an idea about how do we get rid of property taxes. And they took, because those are things that are like, yeah, wait a minute. And sometimes they're like, what? Yeah, why do we? Like, and so I start kind of, you let them talk, you're like, yeah, doesn't it seem odd that we have to have government permission to do that in your backyard? Like, yeah, that is kind of wrong. And it gets their attention. Like, Eric, I didn't tell them what worked for you because it was true.
Yeah. Are you talking about like what got me involved and what I would talk to people about? Basically, I worked at a local brewery, and the city during COVID shut them down. And then once they were allowed to reopen at half capacity, they passed a city ordinance fining small businesses $500 to have 50 or more people on the property. So you would just speak to people about property rights, about like individual freedom and their own personal freedom, if you will. And people are like, man, and then you would point out, like, regardless if this person was registered Republican or registered Democrat, it got like a super majority Republican support in a city that, or Republicans are supposed to believe in individual freedoms and liberties. But you point out, like, this could have been shut down if the Republicans voted like they campaign, you know what I mean? But they never vote like they campaign. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about, Tubb, or how I would handle it.
Things that they care about.
Yeah.
It's the things that we want to talk about. When you start doing that, hey, wait a minute, because they got it. And now you can talk to them. And you have that conversation. And like I said, if you can give them one thing, just one thing, that doesn't seem to be getting solved right now. But if we keep it local, because local is what's going to hit their life. That's the reality of it. And so I think that you're right. I think that that's the approach to take. I think we really should be focusing local. And I'm going to tell you right now, go do it, dude. Go run local.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the plan. My life has a major curveball right now that I'm trying to figure out kind of how to manage it in that. But if time's open up, it's something I want to do. And I just want to mention this because there's actually National's getting shit on a lot lately. And I don't know if that's necessarily hugely beneficial for me to chat about, but I do want to say something positive to candidates out there, because regardless of the shit that's going on at the national level, if you've got a strong local libertarian party, even if it's only at the county level, just ignore all of that noise. We're talking about fixing things and bringing libertarian solutions at the local level, because I truly believe that those solutions, once they're implemented and people see them working at that local level, more municipalities will move in that direction because they'll see prosperity of those communities rising. So I think that if you can do that, there is one tool that was not super useful for me as a statewide candidate running for governor. But when I went through that process of learning whether and vetting this software as a tool, I think that LP National has made, in the form of voter gravity, a phenomenal tool for local candidates to use. And anybody who's running as a libertarian, I don't know how much National promotes it, but with the price, and I don't want to put pricing out there and stuff like that, but with the pricing and the cost of this software and the data that's available to you, it's an amazing deal. And one of the things that as a candidate, I would say I'm most appreciative of LP National, just in the sense that it's providing a resource to candidates that I promise, if you're tech savvy and you dig into data and you know a thing or two about marketing and sales and how many touches it takes to convert people, if you live in a small community, one that over the course of several months you could walk and knock on most doors, you've got an amazing tool that LP National makes available. I hope they make that available if they're serious about winning local elections, because I think that's the kind of data and product that I promise you the Republicans and Democrats are making available to their candidates. So it's nice to see the Libertarian Party making it available to candidates.
All right. So here's the thing. Sitting here and we're listening you're saying. I'm sitting here going, hang on. And you can tell me, hey, Tubbs, shut up. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But
hey, Tubbs, shut up.
not you. You.
Oh, okay. My bad.
All right. So would you consider, like you said, you got a lot of stuff going on in life and everything, because it seems like you'd be a great guy to have involved in the campaign. Like, would you run a campaign for somebody? Like, would you be a campaign manager for somebody? Because it seems like that hits your wheelhouse a little bit also.
I mean, I'm probably, I don't know if that's the role. The reality is I couldn't have set the record for votes in North Carolina if I didn't have a rock star campaign manager. So like within my skill set, I am much more of like the activist, or I guess now candidate, since I've kind of had to fill my spot in that role. But I'm not the guy who's really like getting into like managing the data. I'm more of like that big picture guy type of thing. So I think the detail work that, put it this way, of the tasks and functions that my campaign manager did, who I thought was a godsend and did a very like an incredible job, I do not think I would have done her job very well. It doesn't play to my personal skill sets. But I'm probably a very controlling candidate. Like I wanted my fingers in everything. So even though I wasn't managing everything, I was still kind of like a pain in the ass to everybody on the campaign team.
Who was your campaign manager?
The campaign manager, Libertarian?
She was, yes. Kim Acker.
Okay.
You need to get her on. I want her on if at all.
So I will put it out. I know she's not a huge fan of like podcasts and speaking and like the front facing roles. I think she's amazing. She's, I mean, hands down, one of the most amazing libertarian activists. I couldn't have asked for a better campaign manager. I think any libertarian who has even a chance to have her on their team in North Carolina couldn't endorse her more. I will put it out there, but she's generally not one who likes to do podcasts. So good luck. And I will be one of the, I will be right there in the watch crew watching the show live if you can get Kim on.
So do you prefer activism or candidate now that you've been on both sides of it? Because they are very, very different. I think libertarians don't understand that they have some great activists and we go run for office. We go, it's a different beast. And we kind of realize that like they're not the same thing. And so not everybody's going to make that transition well. So for you, do you prefer one or the other?
Yeah. I mean, I at the core, I fucking hate politics, man. I hate all this bullshit that was forced on us. So the reality is like I was a candidate because that's what was needed. And I guess enough libertarians in my state thought that I was the guy, and they dripped on me for a couple of months, to use that marketing and sales term. But they dripped on me for a couple of months, converted me, and I ran the campaign. But I like to see real change, and I like to see the results. And the reality is politics moves slowly, very slowly, even if you can get the right people in place, where activism can sometimes at least bring about immediate change, or, change that you can gauge in a matter of months instead of years or potentially even decades with federal bloat that we're looking at hopefully rolling back one day. So I think I prefer activism, but I'm not opposed to being a candidate, especially from a standpoint of being a libertarian. I don't know if I would like the job, right? Like the actual job, which I put a lot of thought of that, right? Like if, God were to appoint me governor of North Carolina, like I would do it. But that's not what I want to do. I want to spend time with my family. I homeschool my son. We train jujitsu together. Like I have a life that I'm very thankful and blessed that I can be 42 and, basically shut down my company and like take care of my parents and my kid, right? Like there's plenty of people who can't do that. I look at that as I'm very blessed. Politics, if I did get the job, I feel like that would just detract so much from my life that I wouldn't enjoy it. So if I stumbled into that role, I would serve my fellow North Carolinians for 4 years. But it actually being a politician is sounds like just about the worst thing that I could ever actually do, which, I shouldn't say that, but it's true. And I told people I'd never lie to them. So I won't start now that I'm not the candidate.
Now, as we wrap this up, I want to pose a question to what?
Can I ask him one more thing?
Ask him one more thing so I can start wrapping this up.
You said something that was actually very comforting, which we don't seem to hear. So maybe it's something that's going very well in your state as opposed to others. You said that they kind of came around as like, hey, why don't you run? Hey, why don't you run? Hey, why don't you run? And libertarians, especially down here in Florida, they don't do that. There's no follow up. There's no, hey, you be good. Let's get you running again. Or even with us, when we ran, we ran pretty well. I think all three of us. Now, Eric went everywhere. Eric did it all. Okay, but there was still no. Hey, okay, we want to keep you involved. What are you going to do now? We'll help you. So it was good to hear that you said no. They kind of came after me. They're like, hey, and they kept pushing, like, hey, you're our guy. We want that. So it's good to hear that the Libertarians actually did that right.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a couple of them. One who kind of led the effort, but it came out of the activism, right? I had 9 rallies, and it was around like rally 5 that they were like, "Hey, you want to run for governor?" And I kind of just laughed, like, "Are you crazy?" And then they just every rally, it's like we had this new thing, like we had to go yell at our local government because they were pieces of shit every single month. So it was like clockwork in your city council meeting. Who's Mike showing up with this time? I brought like 40 homeless people into a meeting with me once. And then we all got up there and talked about how, this address that you're trying to shut down, this is their home. And you heard their stories of so through that process and through that activism, they had that opportunity where, hey, we can pitch Mike on this every single month. We know we're going to have him nailed down chatting for like a half hour after this. And, it was around that final rally where we actually started to have some wins. And I think that maybe like the wins kind of buttered me up enough to say yes in that moment. And then once you got me to say yes, then it just becomes like an integrity thing, right? Like, all right, I committed to do this. I'm going to do it kind of thing. Cause it's definitely not something that, when you ask if I'd run again, it's not something where I'm like, I don't want to run again. It's not something like, oh, I can't wait to run another governor campaign. Right. Like I'm so far from that. Like, I'd be much more likely to run for something local. But, if in 4 years, knowing what other states have to deal with that we're very blessed in North Carolina to not have to deal with, the ballot access challenges, right? If my party looks to me and says, Mike, we think you're our best chance to maintain ballot access for the party for another 4 years, you managed to do it with like peanuts, right? I think from start to finish, we spent less than 12 grand. Right. To get ballot access for your state for less than 12 grand. I don't know of any state in the country that wouldn't take our money, right? 12 grand for ballot access, take our money. So if the party comes to me and because I looked at the data, there have been some libertarian candidates for governor who break the 2%. There have been some that don't. When they don't, right? Like I technically, I guess I didn't need to this time. Because of the backup ballot access there. But with the way things are going at the national, I don't like my state having to depend on other states for our ballot access. Yeah. And if we can get a libertarian governor candidate to be a good messenger to move libertarian ideas in the public, in the minds of North Carolinians every 2 years and secure ballot access, or every 4 years, I think that's something that we absolutely should be doing as a party. And if the party thinks that I'm the guy to do that, and I have the capacity in my life at the time, I would do it again. So that's why I have to say maybe I would do it again, but it would take a few things. And if there was someone who would rather do it, who thinks that, who I'm comfortable with and agree with that they could get the 2% and get the ballot access, I would very gladly, not primary them again. Cause this time we did have a primary. I ended up running with my primary mate for lieutenant governor, but when I look at it, I'm not quite sure if he broke 2% in lieutenant governor.
I think he did.
It was close. I know he got less than me and Bob did. I know that
Bob Drake did great.
It was close. So, I'd have to just look at it. But if I didn't, I want to make sure whoever we run for governor can get that 2% because it's the cheapest and most secure way for us to maintain ballot access, which enables us to do the things we did. Our state, I think, not to brag on North Carolina, but I would argue we're the best state party in the country. One, we have more registered libertarians than any other state except California. California has twice as many registered libertarians, but they're 4 times our size. So, they're 4 times our size.
Whatever.
And we ran more races than I think most other states combined.
I'm sure
we have a great party here. So I just want to grow the Libertarian Party here because I think people are growing up to the fact that the North Carolina Republicans and Democrats really suck. I say that, they stuck at the federal level too, but even if the people who are not ready to accept that and like Team Red or Team Blue at the federal level, I think they're realizing at the state level, hey, I can be a Republican at the federal level and a Libertarian at the state and local. or I can be a Democrat at the federal level and a libertarian at the state and local. And I think those are the things that we all need to be thinking about. And quite frankly, all the damn fighting that happens in this party is probably the hardest thing that I think objectively is the biggest roadblock to actually accomplishing that.
Yep.
Indeed. All right. So as we wrap this up, I want to do this. I just thought of a segment right now. I'm going to give all three of you previous candidates 30 seconds to sell the libertarian message. And this is all off the cuff. Nobody knows I was going to do this for everybody watching, listening, and etc. I did not propose this to them prior to exactly right now. So, well, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10, and this is how we're going to decide who goes first and who goes last. So, thinking of a number between 1 and 10, Eric, what's the number?
7.
Tub?
8.
Mike?
3.
The number was 7. Therefore, Eric goes first.
My elevator pitch for liberty is simple.
Hold on, I gotta set the 30-second timer. Okay.
I'm not even gonna need that.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm all for limited government, economic freedom, and individual liberty. That's it.
Okay, that's what I was about. If you're an offensive lineman, that's a pretty slow 40, but because that was 90 seconds. So, and Tub, you were the highest, but you went over, so you don't win the showcase showdown. So next up, we have Mike Ross. He successfully garnered 947,000 votes in the state of Carolina for governor, and we are proud of him to no end. So, Mike, here is your 30 seconds. Hold on. We got to give this to Eric. You get mild applause. You didn't get the gunshots because it didn't rattle my britches. But, here we go with Mike.
I don't want to rattle your britches either. Let's be very clear.
We're going to get to you, Tubbs, soon enough. Right. And you may or may not rattle my britches regardless of what you think. Okay, he took off the sunglasses, put on the spectacles.
I got to be able to. I got to be able to see, and I'm just going to call it how I see it. As someone who's a financial planner who tries to help people.
Are you starting right now? My bad. I was supposed to start the timer. You have 30 seconds. Are you ready?
Yeah, I was just going to go. Yeah.
Let's go.
3, 2, 1, go. 30 seconds.
Yeah, so if you don't like liars, you should become a libertarian and vote for libertarians, because here's the reality. I have a 13-year-old kid. Thanks to the federal government, he's over $100,000 in debt into an unrepayable debt slavery. I think slavery is bad, and abolishing it was one of the greatest things that my founding fathers worked through the process to do. And the sad reality is Republicans and Democrats want your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids in debt slavery. You shouldn't support them. You should support us.
Oh, you went over by about 2 seconds, but that was beautiful. No, you get that?
Look, I think no matter what I say, he already has.
Quiet, Tub. You can't take away his shots. I got to. Okay.
Am I going now? No, it's simple. You've already.
Wait. Tub, I haven't even started the timer yet. You got to. You can't be jumping in here. That's the problem with you people. You always want to
people.
We're on white people time.
People from Connecticut.
How about you people?
You people from Connecticut.
Connecticut's
okay, here we go. Here's Tubbs 30 seconds. We're gonna give him an introductory applause.
Because I'm not getting one after.
Yeah, you're not. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
So the truth is, they've already dealt with the two-party system. They've already seen what it's done. You've seen what it's bringing for you. So I would tell people, you don't even have to join the Libertarian Party. Be willing to vote Libertarian. Be willing to make a change. And here's the beauty of it. Vote Libertarian. If you don't like it, vote that person back out in 4 years. But if you like it, tell your friends.
Okay. You'll have 7 seconds.
A pastor that didn't need all of his time. That never happens. Don't tell my church about this.
That is true. As someone who grew up in the Southern Baptist Church with black pastors, pastors will use every darn minute that is possible to them, to the point where my stomach would be boiling about 11:30 when services were over at 11 o'clock. I just wanted to go home and eat. And it was the pastor that went over, and then there was social time for everybody that, as everybody files out of the church. So Tub, I appreciate that.
Hey, the church ladies have the trick down. You open up the fellowship hall so the smell comes in while church is there, and everybody starts looking over, and the pastor gets the hint. He shuts up pretty quick in those days.
So that smells like Publix fried chicken in there. What's going on?
Yeah. So why it gotta be fried chicken? We know good and darn well Tub ain't never had no fried chicken at his church. It is nothing but boiled beef, boiled potatoes, and boiled peas.
At Fire the Uniparty, for the person asking there in the at Fire the
Joe, that's our boy Joe Hanush.
No, what's your
Liberty
social medias? That Liberty Lady.
Mike,
at Fire the Uniparty.
Mike,
and on Facebook, you're still Mike Ross for governor, so you might need to change that to county commish or whatever.
I think it's actually still at Fire the Uniparty is the actual at page.
Okay.
I got it up right now. So what are all your ways to get a hold of you?
Yeah.
I mean, the best place that I actually run myself is X. So at Fire the Uniparty on X, that'll come directly to me. The Facebook probably will go to my wife or someone else. So, but X is probably the best way, or email, or I'm not hard to find.
Okay. So we're going to wrap this up with Eric's closing statement because Tub has interrupted him all night long. So, Eric.
Hey, Mike, it was good catching up, man. I thought you ran a heck of a campaign. You, your running mate, and kind of running mate in North Carolina's weird. And that was Bray, right? What was his name?
Shannon Bray. Yep.
Shannon Bray. And then Bob Drag. All of y'all really put in masterclass running statewide elections here in North Carolina. Great job. Keep up the fight, man. Stay involved. We'll talk.
Let me throw Sean Haw in there. He was also on the Council of State, and he was my treasurer. So Sean Haw also in that Council of State.
All right, there you go. All right, but yeah, stay in the fight. We'll talk offline about how I hope you stay involved.
I'm good. Y'all have a blessed night.
I want to thank Tub for keeping it short and sweet because his voice is, I have these headphones on and it's like nails, pins, and possibly a 7.62 by 51 round going through my ears when Tub speaks. And it hurts. It hurts America when you hear Tub.
Watch. I'm posting the text messages. It's on, Marcus. Listen, you talk a lot of trash on this show, man. You don't talk to me like that in text messages.
What? I thought you had your closing statement, bro. I mean, you had plenty of opportunity. I'm having my closing statement, and just like always what you people do.
Your closing statement is going to be about me.
No, it was just look, he says it's about me and fireworks goes off behind him. This is why... anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching and listening to Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast that has ever existed in the existence of podcast humanity. And like I said earlier, brought to you by the only real
Busted.
Only real libertarian.
We got you.
You did get me. I didn't vote for Chase. I voted for. I wrote in Oliver North for president. So.
All right. Are we gonna do our thing here?
Yes. So I want to thank everybody for watching the Black Powder Podcast. Thank you to Eric Parker. Thank you to Tub Rodenbaugh, whatever his last name is, whatever Germanic last name he has. And most importantly, thank you to Mike Ross for coming on kind of like weirdly, because it was just a miscommunication, but we got this done.
And this is
great.
I like, why we got it? Hold on a second. Why are we canceling Marcus? We're not going anywhere until we solve this problem. Huh?
You called yourself the only real Republican. It's time to cancel you.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's what you did.
You know what?
You're also using "you people," which I have been told is a racist thing to say.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm old enough to remember when Ross Perot said that during a debate. And, you know, I felt like everybody had a free pass to proceed with calling every other person of a different race "you people." From, you know, if you go back that far enough to know who Ross Perot is, then you should know that it became a regular. Everybody got the "you people" pass when Ross Perot said it on the national stage. So that's why. This is the real reason Joe wants to cancel me. Anyway, once again, we laugh, we cry, we sing, we say goodbye. It's the Black Powder Podcast. And since I'm rhyming, live free or die.
Or die.
Or die.
Okay, and with that being said, I'm going to click this button.
All right.